I'd like to call to order the
That's what I want.
March meeting of the Mayor and City Council, City of Tawnytown. Ask Councilman Wance to lead us in the pledge.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our March Council meeting, Mayor and City Council. We have a special guest in our audience tonight. I'd like to acknowledge the Honorable Richard Titus from Carroll County Circuit Court is with us tonight. Care to make a remark or two,
Very
Judge?
briefly, Mr. Mayor, if it please Mayor and Council, it's nice to see everybody. I'm used to being a lawyer, standing, walking around in front of people, so forgive me while I do that. I don't want to turn my back to you all here, but it's my honor to be here tonight to address you very briefly. I mentioned to the Mayor he might be getting sick of me. I just saw him on Friday, so he was Foster on Friday. But here I am tonight, and the reason I wanted to come up here to address the Council is candidly to ask for your support, as well as the citizens who are here, in the upcoming election. Most people don't realize how circuit court elections work in particular. So what I'm trying to do is come around and make it clear to folks to understand exactly what I'm dealing with. By way of background, I practiced law in Westminster for 25 years, just about. Mr. Bello here will confirm everything I'm saying. But there's a vacancy on a court, such as the circuit court, the way it is filled is it is filled by through the thorough appointment process. There's a nominating commission that meets. They take applications from whoever applies. We get interviewed by, I think I get interviewed by 9 different bar associations. All their recommendations are considered by a nomination commission. They whittle the list down from the original 9 applicants, in my case, down to a short list that gets submitted to the governor. In my case, it was 4 names, 2 men, 2 women. And I was fortunate enough to get the appointment after being interviewed by Governor Hogan and his legal counsel. Once you're appointed, you stand in the next succeeding election. Of course, I gave up my practice I built up for 25 years and have been serving as a judge for 2 years since then. I'll stand on my reputation. I've worked hard to develop a good one. So why am I here? Because in the next election, anybody who is a lawyer who meets the residency requirement and pays the $50 filing fee can be on the ballot to challenge a sitting circuit court judge. 2 people have chosen to do so in this election. I'm not going to talk about them, I'll just talk about me. I was practiced law, as I said, in Westminster for almost 25 years. I've lived in Carroll County for going on 30 years. My wife and I have raised 2 children who went through the school system here. And all things being equal, I think that I've got the most community roots and the most understanding of the community, so therefore I would hope that going forward that I can count on support from the Mayor and Council, the citizens. If there's any questions anyone has about my background, Jay can fill you on some of them. Otherwise, I think I know most of you. You can go. I mean, I never wanted to be a politician, but I'm forced into it, so I do now have a website, retainjudgetitus.com. You can go look at that and get any information you need. I'll leave a supply of cards here. I didn't bring a ton with me, but I've handed some out already. I'll leave some here with Mr. Hine, if that's okay. And if anyone has any questions they wish to contact me about, I'm always happy to talk to you. All things being equal, I've worked hard to get to become a judge. I'd like to stay there. So,
Thank you.
I think I've met all of you. I've not met you, councilman, moving forward, but we've got a common background. As I understand it, you hailed originally from Montgomery County and had the good sense to move away.
Absolutely.
So did I many years ago. So we share that common background. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come up and address you and the citizens as well.
Thank you, Judge, for being with us.
And look forward to, I'm sure we will be seeing you all around as the political season unfolds moving forward. But
Absolutely.
primary day is June 26th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Titus.
I tell you what,
Roll call shows
I was
that all
going to
council
suggest just
members
put them on
are
the
present
table
and
over there
accounted for
and
except
people
for
can get them.
Councilman Frazier. Our first item tonight is the approval of the minutes for February the 7th, 2018, and February the 12th, 2018 regular minutes, and the February 24th Mayor and Council Retreat closed session, and the March 10th, 2018 retreat and closed session. Anyone care to make a motion for one or all of those minutes?
So moved for both sets of minutes. I'll second.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. And I understand, Counselor, that because a citizen offered an objection to our closed session, there has to be a report filed with the open meetings law. Is that correct?
Yeah, because there was an objection filed at the recent retreat, Robin Fraser submitted an objection. All you have to do is say you object, which is what she did. And then the statute, the open meeting statute, requires that a copy of the closed meeting notice be sent to the Open Meetings Compliance Board. And so now that you've approved that tonight, it can go to the Open Meetings Compliance Board, and it'll go with a cover letter. Her objections, we didn't read them out because she just said she objected, but after the meeting, she had presented something in writing, and so I can share them all with you if you want to know what the objections to the closed session were. It says, I object to the closing of this meeting on which she wrote it on the back of the agenda. On March 10, 2018 for the following reasons, and request a copy of the closing statement by Mayor McCarron. 1, personnel decision-making authority too vague. Is this a policy discussion? It should be open. Is this about a specific employee? That should be 305B1. 2, code enforcement action, too vague, not specific enough. Action in general, a specific incident. General discussion should be open. 3, small cell legislative strategy, too vague, sounds like an open meeting discussion to me. 4, State of Maryland versus Catherine Adelaide lawsuit. Weren't criminal charges filed by the police? What legal advice would the council need to hear? 5, Fraser versus City of Tawnytown. Which Fraser? Robin Fraser signed it then.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I just want to make note that Councilman Fraser has joined the council. Okay. Does any council member have a perceived conflict of interest with any agenda items this evening?
No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Okay. Next, we'll move into resolution, ordinances, and agreements. And up for adoption tonight is Resolution 2018-03, the water allocation for March of 2018. Would care to make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2018-03?
I make a motion that we adopt the water allocation resolution for March 2018 as amended for us this evening.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. City Manager's report. Henry, what do you have for us?
Well, I only have one thing tonight, and that's talking about the restriction of growth funds, which was a topic that in open meeting Saturday that we discussed. And what I'm asking the council to do is to, right now, incoming, we have 4 accounts that generate money from growth. And what I would ask the council to do is to restrict the money coming in on these 4 accounts, and I'll name them. It's 4, and you don't have to remember all this, but it's 405 water connection fees, 4555 sewer connection fees, 4535 benefit assessment water, 4570 benefit assessment sewer. And we talked about this several years ago. And what we haven't done is restrict the funds much the same as we do for the park impact. So that money comes in and it's put into a fund that's held and restricted. It can only be used for dedicated projects in the water and sewer, or ever, to be honest, however you see fit to use that money. But it separates it from the fund balance. And we know how much money we have, and we can dedicate that to specific projects. So I'm asking you to do that tonight. And I guess that would be under what? New business, right? Right, so under new business, that's
Shall
what
we
I'm asking.
wait for new business, or shall
Well, I wanted to,
we make a movement and a motion now?
you can do it now, I guess, the legals.
Yep, anytime.
Anyone like to make a motion to accept the city manager's recommendation to restrict the growth funds?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion?
I've had a lot of difficulty, Mr. Mayor, finding out the numbers for the allocated capital projects and some of these restricted funds. So I'm going to vote no on this. I think that there's a big surplus in the water fund that should be refunded to the ratepayers. And so I'm encouraging my fellow council members to vote no with me.
Well, Councilman, if I may respond, if we do restrict these funds to go after projects for water sewer, that means that these are rates that we're not going to have to raise on people.
I don't believe that's accurate. I think what actually happens is that they come off the ability of the council to later act upon them because they're restricted in the budget process. And I don't want to do that now.
Councilman
I
Frazier?
want to do that after we discuss the budget. I haven't received a copy of this year's budget.
Well, that's because we haven't issued it yet.
Well, then it's inappropriate to pass restrictions on the budget this time before we discuss the positive capital balances in the water fund. I encourage my fellow councilmen not to restrict the funds at tonight's meeting till we've had our budget discussion.
If you recall, just about 5 minutes ago, less than 5, what I said was that funds would be restricted, and the only way that it could get unrestricted is if the council votes on it, much the same as we do with the park.
I'm just not in favor of giving up that until we see the budget, not giving up that ability to have that discussion until we receive the budget.
Not sure
I
what-
believe
what
there's
are
a
we-
lot of money in the water.
What are we giving
funds.
up? I'm not sure I understand what your point is. What,
I call the question.
Well, you didn't make the motion, so actually you can't call the question, but
I can
but
call
the
the
mayor,
question as a member.
the mayor actually had asked you a question. I don't know that you heard him. Mr. Mayor, can you repeat it?
I don't understand what we are giving up. You said we're giving something up, and
We had this
I'm not
big
clear on
pot
that.
of water, of money, millions of dollars that we've taken from the ratepayers more than's needed for the operating costs. I was looking forward to an opportunity to discuss those monies, and now tonight, we're going to take a portion of those monies before the discussion and restrict them so they won't be part of the discussion. I think that's not only out of order, but inappropriate because all the funds should be on the table during the budget process. I think I said that
Well,
pretty clearly
it's-
already
The
this evening.
point, Councilman, is that you fail to understand what we're
I
trying to do
certainly understand
here.
it, Mr. Mayor. I wish
No,
you would quit
you
saying
don't.
that I don't understand.
Councilman, would you let the mayor finish, please?
No, I think it's rude
Please.
and an insult for the mayor to say
Please.
that I don't understand something.
Well, let me explain how I understand it, and tell me if you
I
disagree
think
with
that's
it.
a little bit more reasonable and less offensive, and a little civility would be in order.
I agree.
By identifying these growth funds, we'll be able to see how much is there. Under the current system, they simply go into the general fund, and we have no idea how much is there. It certainly behooves the council to be more prudent with those funds if they know the amount of funds there are. That's the only thing we're trying to do.
And if I
And
may
so
add,
your intention is to kind of camouflage these funds? Is that
No,
what-
may I respond to what you just said?
Sure.
That's my point exactly. We don't want to restrict the funds till we have a budget. We can see all the money in the general fund. We haven't even received a copy of this year's budget. It's inappropriate to restrict these funds at this meeting.
if I may at least make one more point, Councilman, this money does not come from rates. This money comes from growth. So it has nothing to do with the rates.
And my point, Mr. Manager, is that we would have all the funds on the table so we could make a good assessment
All
of
right,
what can be
I
done
think
to
we'll
reduce
move-
rates in
we'll move
Tonytown
on.
for
We have
water
a-
and sewer rates.
But again,
We have
it's
a
not
short
tied to
circuit
rates.
We'll move on. Does anyone else have any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like
I'm
sign.
opposed to that.
So carried. Anything else for us, Henry?
No, that's it.
Anybody have any questions for Henry since Wednesday night? All right, any questions on the department reports? All right, let's move into the legal report. Counselor, what do you have for us tonight?
All right, 2 items of follow-up. The first one is a follow-up from our discussion on Saturday regarding the small cell towers, the small cell issues that we dealt with. And as I told you, there was a Senate Bill 1188 pending that was going to severely affect local autonomy, zoning, subdivision, site plan, severely affect that. And so you direct me to, you had basically said that you wanted a copy of it. I gave you copies of it so you could look at it. What MML is requesting is that everybody contact their legislature to say they are opposed to this. And so since Councilman Vigliotti can write a much better letter than I can, I asked him to write the letter for opposition. And so he wrote it, I looked at it, and says it basically sums up what we need to do. He has that letter with him tonight. If you all are interested in putting your name on the letter, see Councilman Vigliotti, and then it will be sent to our local senator, and we'll go from there to see if it moves through the process. So you can see Councilman Vigliotti after the meeting, and then we hope to send it out because the hearing is on the 20th, I believe. So, okay.
You feel like our presence at the hearing would be of any advantage?
I think if we were interested in doing that, you'd probably want to check with MML to make sure it doesn't mess up any of their plans. So, the second item I have is a follow-up from Wednesday night. Councilman Frazier asked about a stop sign at Dollar General, and so I went out and looked at that and pulled the plat. And so I was under the wrong impression when we were discussing it. So let me explain. At Dollar General, it's a site plan was approved that created a lot that Dollar General sits on, and the neighboring lot is where the auto dealership sits on. And in between that is a use in common road that serves not only Dollar General but the auto dealer. It goes into the auto dealer as it's kind of like a straight and then turns to the right if you're going in. And off of that road, there's a sharp left turn turning into Dollar General's parking lot. So that's the layout. I'm sure you're familiar with it. There is a stop sign, and the stop sign is placed up Antrim Boulevard. So if you're coming out of that use in common road, that is not a city road, there's a stop sign there, as there should be, so that people stop before they enter the public right of way, look left and right, that type of thing. They could cross the street as well and head into the shopping center. It is clear, Councilman Wance said this at the meeting, that none of those roads are owned by the city. Okay, so the one across the street between Lorien and Sheets, it's called Road A. That is not owned by the city. It's owned by the 3 shopping center, Lorien and Sheets. And when you cross the street, that road is again an easement between the Dollar General property and the auto dealer property. So obviously, since there's a stop sign, that's not what you were talking about. So I kind of looked and figured out the stop sign that you must be talking about would be if I was going to leave the Dollar General property and turn right onto that right of way, and then I'd come to the easement area. So that's the only place a stop sign would even make sense, is if you left the Dollar General parking lot, I needed to stop, kind of look left to make sure nobody was coming out of the auto dealer before I turned right to go out to the road. So that's the layout. That was my assumption of what you were talking about.
I think I clearly stated it, and that you are correct. That
Okay.
was the,
So that area where the stop sign would have to go, obviously it would be on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of when you're leaving the parking lot area, is private property. So it's not even in an easement area for the town. It's private property, so Dollar General would have to agree to it and consent to it. Similarly, if there was a stop sign, instead of as leaving the Dollar General, if you said, well, let's put a stop sign on the left so that people leaving the auto dealer would stop and then yield the right of way, people coming out of Dollar General, that too would be on the right-hand side as you're leaving, which would be on the Dollar General property again, and would need Dollar General's consent to put it there. The bigger issue is, obviously that's the safety issue that we're talking about, but enforcement is the biggest problem. Is that if you have the stop sign there, and you would think anybody who is prudently driving would stop anyway, but if you have the stop sign there, the problem that you have is that if people go through it, it's not a public road, so there's no enforcement issues that you can deal with. It's kind of like the stop signs you see in the middle of the shopping centers. And they're there for safety, people stop so pedestrians can cross the street, but the police can't come and issue you a citation if you go through those stop signs. So you have a property issue and you have an enforcement issue to that stop sign. The only thing I tried to think out of the box and said, well, maybe there's a way that the auto dealer could put a sign on their property, which would be across the street if I was driving out of Dollar General before I turn right, that says, look to the left, or traffic comes from the left, or something, where since they're concerned about it, they could do some self-help, create a sign that would allow them to address the situation. But we can't mandate that. You could only step in and ask, and that would be the situation. So that's the best answer I can give you as to the status. If you wanted to do something or go out and talk to them or something like that, I guess that could always happen, but there's nothing that can be mandated to do.
Well, I've been talking to them about it, and I've certainly been talking to the city about helping them execute it. And I would like to see the town put that stop sign up because of the collisions. It's not a factor of enforcement, it's a fact of reducing the danger there. The people that are in the Dollar General store don't realize that there's another long-standing use and common usage of that. And I'd like to see the town assist in stopping an accident from happening.
Well, make sure I understood you correctly, and I think I did, because it's exactly what most of us said Wednesday night, is that the city has no dog in the fight, because we have no rights to we can't put up a sign. It's private property. Being an advocate for property rights, I'd like to say, yeah, city can't do that. We can suggest, but that's really all we have, is to recommend that they do something. We can't mandate anything. The city really doesn't have a place in this. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. We can't make it happen. All we could do is go to them, and when the them is, you're not talking the manager at the store, you're talking about the owner of the property. You know,
Right.
You could go to them and say, it's been brought to our attention that there's a safety concern. Would you be willing to put up a stop sign? The interesting thing is, the neighboring property owner could do the same thing.
Right.
And he has more of an interest in it than we do because he has part ownership of the road with Dollar General.
Right.
So there's no way I can go out and write them a letter saying, we are coming to put a stop sign up. That can't happen.
Right. Okay.
Does that answer your concerns, Councilman? Okay, any other thing for us, Jen?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Any questions for Jay? All right, let's move into the new business. Any questions on the financial report that was included in your package? Anyone care to make a motion to approve the monthly financial report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, so carried. Next, the accounts payable. You see a check ledger for the bills that have been paid this past month. Anybody have any questions on the accounts payable?
No, sir.
Care to make a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, so carried. We also have in our packets the Adult Protective Services MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, that we discussed on Wednesday night. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve this MOU?
No approval.
Oh, wait a
correct?
minute. This is right. We have to go through,
We're just going to hold it until we get some answers back.
all right. Anyone have any further questions on that MOU? All right, we'll bring this up at future meetings.
Mr. Mayor, under new business, before we leave new business, I'd like to make a motion, since the Cole Amendment has been rescinded at the federal level, to encourage our law enforcement officials in our town. I'd like to make a motion that Tony Town resolve and instruct our staff to arrest or to prosecute people that sell and market in marijuana. I'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
Anyone care to second that motion?
I learned from Archbishop Laurie that more people have died of the opioid crisis in 2017 than died in the Vietnam War. this week, and I thought it would be appropriate to raise for this recalcitrant council that we should not be easy on marijuana distribution in Tawnytown.
Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion dies for lack of second. Let's move into council member reports. Councilman Frazier, do you have anything for us tonight?
I pass. I don't have anything for you tonight.
Councilman Wance, how about you?
Many of us were at the MML dinner in Westminster on Thursday. It was a very informative dinner. We talked about the HURs, which I'm sure the mayor's going to talk on a little bit later. It was very informative this time. A lot of good speakers. Had the Small Business Development Center there talking to us about what they do and how their programs operate. Also, this Saturday is Baseball Field Maintenance Day, getting ready for youth baseball leagues. Anyone's available, 10 o'clock, meet us out at the ball fields. We're just going to work to get them in the best shape possible for the kids. And that's in preparation for April 14th is opening day for youth baseball. All of the council is invited to be there, of course. And I think it'll just be a very enjoyable day to see all the kids in their uniforms. Their pictures will be taken that day. It'll be a lot of fun. So I encourage everyone to come out and enjoy those things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Brad, I'm sorry, what time is that on?
Which day are you talking about?
Opening.
Opening day, I don't have the time yet, but it's probably going to be, I want to say 9 in the morning.
Okay.
But I'll let you know for sure.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Foster, what do you have for us?
Just one thing, the Main Street quarterly meeting, that's where all the municipalities that have main streets, and I think they all have them, come together and meet, will be held in Tawnytown tomorrow. They are meeting at the Tannery Barn, so that should be very exciting. The mayor and I will be there and to welcome everybody, and I understand from Nancy that we'll get a tour of this new building. We met the owners at the business breakfast on Friday. They're very, very excited to be here, as we are to have them. So we're looking forward to that meeting tomorrow. Also at the meeting, Tom Fiddler, some of you might remember, will be the speaker, and his focus will be Main Streets this time. But
Great. Looking forward to it.
that's it.
Councilman Vigliotti.
Two very brief things. I want to remind everybody that the mayor and city council, in addition to our police department, are participating in Relay for Life on June 2nd this year. If you have not signed up to be a part of either one of our teams, I strongly suggest doing so. Remember, you have to wear a costume or something Star Wars themed. It's a very enjoyable time. It's a very good cause, and I strongly, again, urge everybody to participate. And then I also want to remind everybody on the mayor and council that I do have the letter against Senate Bill 1188. Remind everybody to take a look at it and sign it if you think applicable before leaving tonight. And that's it from me.
Councilwoman Fuller, what do you have for us?
I'm going to stir a pot. Councilman Frazier, when did you drop off your letter stating that you weren't going to be at the retreat? I'm curious.
I wrote it on Friday night, and I got my schedule for the weekend.
Okay, I was just curious because we had no idea where you were during the retreat. And then the letter came out after the fact, and I took a little offense to some of the things that you mentioned in this letter. And I just want to make that clear, that I don't appreciate you acting like we didn't plan on staying that first day, because I know I
would
had
never
other
have voted
plans.
to adjourn that meeting we all attended in February if I'd known that you were not going to go into recess. And the motion was made by Mr. Vigliotti that we would sort things out.
The motion
His motion was
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn, and you voted for it.
And I believe you all planned that before that meeting. By the fact that you packed up and left in a hurry, I was left stunned and surprised that I blocked out that Saturday to attend the
And I'm
retreat,
sorry, but are you
and that
under
you
the
all
impression you're the
had
only one that
planned
has
to
plans on
adjourn it as
Saturday?
a stunt.
Well, you know, Councilman...
Well, I'm not sure how we planned the
I know
disruption.
how you do it all the time.
Well, how we planned the disruption?
No, how do you plan these things where you have things written on little cards of how you're going to vote and that sort of thing? Been watching it for 3 years.
What does that mean?
We have little cards that tell us how to vote.
I sat and watched people read down their card about what was going to happen at the meetings.
The agenda?
Because you have one of those too.
Everybody gets an agenda.
What's that?
You even get an agenda. You get an agenda.
Yeah, we track an agenda on how the meeting's going to
That's
go.
not what I just said.
Right, what you said is an insult to everyone at this table, so I'm hoping you
Well,
didn't
this
mean
is
it
the-
that way.
Well,
Only city council in
Let's-
Carroll
let's-
County
let's
history
get
ever
back on
convicted
track.
of violating the open meetings law.
let's get back on
circuit
track.
court.
We don't need to discuss this shenanigans any longer. And Councilwoman Fuller, if you have any reports that you'd like to give.
No, I have nothing else.
It's irregular.
Wacky stuff. I just, well, I'm not going to say it because I'll just prolong. I'll just get everybody stirred up again, so I'm not going to say it. I just wanted to make everyone aware that the HURs that I was talking about Wednesday night, the House version of that bill was passed 136 to nothing. And we're very pleased with that.
That's a wonderful
It's a
thing.
huge step forward. The Senate bill is due to come out of committee this week, perhaps today, and I've not heard that it had. But it should be out, and
For me?
again, leadership was less than enthusiastic about this bill, but it appears that the rank and file has been very much tuned into our grievance and our problems. So again, it's not too late to call or contact an elected official, particularly a senator. I guess it is for a House member, but particularly a senator, and encourage their support for Senate Bill 516, which is our HUR bill. I want to mention too that Lions Breakfast is this Saturday,
I mentioned that.
and it's also St. Patrick's Day, so enjoy yourself, and it's the day for the wearing of the green, and I started with the green tie tonight just to get everybody prepped for that.
Mr. Mayor?
No.
Can I ask about something that's legislative that's timely?
I'm not gonna take any comments from the floor. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
But it's
So
something
moved.
that you need to act
A second.
I'll second, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you.
I'm opposed to that. Somebody was talking.
Out of place, yes, you're right.
It's not out of place.